Let's talk about a mod I've created called damage numbers. This will be version 1.2, and it is currently functioning for the experimental 2.0 of 7 Days to Die. I wanted to be able to get a better feel for the unique damages that were being dealt. So I created this mod in concept, and then through multiple iterations between Google Gemini and ChatGPT, I was able to get functioning code that allowed me to customize this mod in ways that I would never be able to do without the help of the AIs. Core concept is fairly simple. You have a damage that you deal with pretty much any weapon, and it will be displayed for you on the screen. There's a DPS tracker that is active for the entire length of combat. There are also multiple discrete lines that are available. There's a DPS line that's visible. There's also a line that will show you all of your traps and your little robotic friends. It works on sledgies, and it works on the jump turrets themselves. It also assimilates all the data into one line for your traps that you have, like your flay traps, your dark traps, and your electrical fences. Pretty much everything is grouped into your DPS line as well, so that you get a good feel for what's going on. So if you have a nice large group, you can throw an AoE type damage at them. Molotovs get their own damage report. You can see in that damage report that it shows multiple unique damages, and it's adding them all together for you, so you get a nice total. Explosives are the same. They are handled in a similar fashion. If you have a good explosion throw, you can see there that it actually counts the number of victims you have, and it groups everything together for you. Apparently we delete zombies in this version. This version of the mod has had multiple upgrades to its core systems. The DPS tracker is now much more accurate as to the length of the fight, and it aggregates pretty much all sources of damage that you create underneath the DPS umbrella. And the idea behind the primary damage line there, the number 1, is it is meant for one particular weapon. If you change weapons, it will generate a new line to show you that particular weapon. I've allowed for quite a bit of customization in the mod, and it can be done through console commands, or it can be done through an in-game menu press here. So damage numbers is what we're dealing with. And this one's a little daunting at first, but it's broken into various parts. So what I'm referring to on grouping your weapon attacks into a single line is controlled with this multi-hit window option here. If you would like the majority of your attacks to be grouped together on one damage line, and you're swinging a fairly slow weapon, say a sledgehammer for example, you can increase this value from the default of 1.5 seconds up to something like 4 seconds. And as long as your attacks with that weapon are no more than 4 seconds apart, the mod will group them into a single damage report for you. So as long as all of these attacks come through within 4 seconds, they will all occupy one life. The location of the heads-up display is now easily manipulated inside of the in-game options. So you've got your controls here to go left, right, up and down. And you have a reset button that will take it back to its default positioning. So you can put this wherever you want it, and hopefully it won't be in the way. It does dynamically build itself to only show you what's relevant at the moment. So after a time period, each one of these damage lines will actually disappear. So after about 30 seconds or so of not getting any more DPS, the DPS line will go away. Same thing for line 1, 2, the robotic air and the Molotovs. They each clean themselves up if there's not been any damage. And then the entire thing is not visible as well unless you've been actively doing damage. I focused pretty heavily on grouping all of the robotic companions that you can have into their own damage line. They do add to your DPS calculation, but any damage that's provided to you by a sledge or the blade traps and the dart traps and the electric fences and little robotic turrets, they all consolidate into one line. Their damage is housed there for the entire duration of your fight. I guess I'll be interested to see how that works on Fortnite. But I suspect the number could get kind of ridiculous by the end of it all. So each one of these units, kind of even independent of how long the distance between the actual attacks come in, are going to be consolidated into this one robo line that we have here. Play, my friend. Yeah. Can you make it? Yep, can't make it. So, apparently he had about 420 life. The same thing with the electric traps. They all add into the same bucket underneath the robotic damage. Oh, crud. That's a good example of the shotgun pellet blast there. Breaks down the individual hits if you want. I do like big booms, so if you're able to get yourself a nice group of enemies and actually throw a good grenade at them, you can get yourself a nice damage report of the total damage you did, the total number of victims you did, and it even breaks down the individual hits to a certain degree. The mod uses a nice little trick of grouping numbers together so that it doesn't clutter your screen up too terribly much. At any given time, it can only report back to you 5 numbers that will actually add into your total calculation. It groups similar numbers together so that they can be grouped down into 5. The mod's heads-up display is actually very customizable to only display the things that you think are actually important. So the concept is, if you don't want to show individual elements, you don't have to. So if you are the type that, give me robotic damage, please, and only wants to see the DPS, those are certainly things that you're allowed to customize. So let's actually get this window in a slightly more visible manner. For that's fine right there. So in the in-game options, this entire column here is dedicated to what you're actually going to be shown on the screen at any given time. So this is the toggle on and off of the DPS elements. You can turn the label for DPS on and off. You can turn the actual total value of it on and off. And you can turn the time span on and off. And you can do that with all of these listed elements right here. So there are 2 Molotov lines. You can turn off one entire Molotov line if you only want one of them. So Molotov previous, current. So if we wanted to just have the total DPS for the Molotov label on. Sorry, confused myself. You can have just the total damage of the Molotov itself. If you don't want to actually see the victims, the victim count that's available to you in damage line 1 and 2, you can turn the victim count on and off. I think one of the more relevant things is, oh, crud. That's what I did. Oh, stop it. Yeah, sure. I'm about to die, but that's fine. Is the kill count here. So if you don't want to actually see that you have killed a zombie in your attacks there, you can turn the kill icon and the actual overkill number associated with it off individually. So hopefully with these, you can make it look the way you want and not clutter everything up. Time to die.